Cool. So, welcome to our afternoon slash evening collaboration corner about collaboration with other chapters. We had a session this morning, also a cozy little conversation with other members of the network. And today's theme really was about connecting with other people in the GlobeEd network, whether that's like students, mainly with students in other chapters, but also with like our alumni and our partners and things like that. Tons of collaboration happening this week. Um, yeah, there's other sessions happening tomorrow and on Wednesday or on Thursday as well. All right, so here is our very well documented scenario. It's a short situation, tons of questions. So I'll read it aloud. A GloMed member wants to get in touch with neighboring chapters in their region. This member has questions about different e-board styles, GHU topics, hilltop ideas, and more for these neighboring chapters. So this could be any chapter in the network. It's a real thing happening. Um, the first question is, what are some ways that you would suggest the member get connected with and stay connected with fellow GloMed members? And so you can think on your own like personal experiences. Have you guys reached out to anyone else in the network, or um, you know, what would you suggest to this member?
I think for me, I haven't personally done this, but I feel like with the modern era and with Zoom and everything, it'd probably be good to maybe connect on social media just because I feel like that's a way to keep in touch with that person and kind of see what they're doing and stuff, or maybe follow their chapter, Instagram or whatever. And then through that, you could probably like maybe get a phone number so you could text that person.
Yeah, thank you, Avonlea, for that. That is, it's something that was recommended in the morning session as well with the different scenario that we can definitely dig into if we have time. But yeah, it seems that social media is the new way to go. Whereas, like, when I was in a chapter, it was definitely the old email and just like hoping and praying that someone from the other chapter uses their chapter email. But I'm liking that, like Instagram or Twitter, or social media, um, it's more accessible. And so, like, that's just what might stick to, because then, like, following is a completely different, like, universe almost. Like, an email, you don't get to follow people, you just email that one person and, hope and pray. But with social media, you can follow them and keep that connection. So I really like that. Thank you.
This also isn't something that I've done, but I know that a lot of people in my chapter, alas, pre-COVID, really recommended going to Summit because they said that was like a prime way to like meet people from across the network and connect to people. But I know that's like, not always going to be accessible or reasonable for everyone. But I think that's how a lot of people in my chapter, at least in the last couple years, have like met people from other chapters.
Yeah, 100 billion, million, bajillion percent. Summit was the probably the best way that headquarters could make that effort to, make those connections between different members of the network and not just students, but like everybody was invited to Summit. And so hopefully, hopefully we can in the future host another one. But just a plug for you, if your chapter wants to host a hilltop, headquarters is trying to make that commitment for this year to, in the same ways that we would like support Summit and help find speakers, organize things, um, provide resources in that way. Like for Summit, we want to do that for student hilltops because we know that like students are also doing the work. And so if we can't have an in-person summit, we should at least try to, provide the support to students making their own regional conferences. So, short little plug. But yeah, those are really good methods. I think, okay, so social media is one, great one. And then in lieu of an in person gathering, something I'm like picking up from Eleanor is like, if we have to go virtual, go virtual. But those like larger sized gatherings are really important to kind of network and build those connections. And then hopefully through that, like core memory of the event, you guys can like maintain those relationships. So awesome. Um, so the next question asks what has worked for your chapter.
My chapter did a joint GHU. So I'm from GW. We did a joint GHU with Georgetown this last spring, which was, I think it was like cool to do because we were all on Zoom and we were all like tired of going to Zoom meetings and was all just tired. But it kind of revitalized our like Zoom meeting, and it was a really cool. It was fun. The GHU team was really great. I remember they like reached out, I think, to a few different chapters, and a few of them got back, but Georgetown was just the fastest. And so that, what I think that went really well, and like they also presented to Georgetown's like um, chapter, and then this year, well, I guess that's another question. This year, we're hoping to do that more with hopefully like Howard and then like maybe other chapters in the DC area do like a DC regional something or like a GHU with Howard. So we've been primarily doing it in that area. But we haven't like we do Hilltop every year, but we haven't like collaborated in Hilltop yet, to my knowledge, question mark. So that could be an interesting avenue to explore. I just answered like two questions. Rip, sorry.
I know my chapter last year, I go to USC in California, so we did a joint meeting over Zoom with Berkeley. And I mean, I think the only issue was that it wasn't at the same time as our usual meeting, so not everybody could make it. But definitely, it might be nice to collaborate with a school that kind of has meetings around the same time and do like a collaborative GHU for everybody.
Yeah, I love that. Um, yeah, like the past year of just being virtual in our learning and through like chapter meetings, GHUs, events, and fundraising, all the things that a chapter has to do to operate going virtual. I think we've seen some pretty cool joint GHUs and events and like different campaigns. Um, and I think something that came out of the morning session was um, like the idea that if we just stayed, like, pretend COVID didn't happen and everything just went on as usual, the odds of us hearing of another chapter's campaign or being able to actually support that or go to their event or have like a joint GHU would have been like super limited because we weren't like pushed into the Zoom space. But like that coffee bag sale and the Kaplan course and all these different campaigns that are coming from different chapters, um, and like us being in different parts of the world being able to actually support that now like virtually, I think is super cool. So I definitely love the idea of a DC event with all the DC chapters, and I definitely hear that sentiment of like, yeah, if you're gonna have a virtual event or something that's collaborative with another chapter, to try and shoot for similar times, similar meeting days, or I think something else that would be really cool to consider is like, are your chapters, not just chapters in the same region, but are your partners are in the same region across the world? Are they challenging certain things in their area that like both of your partners tackle? You know, like to find those similarities with other chapters. Um, that would be really cool. So thank you both. Um, we're kind of flying through these questions.
Something that comes to mind for me for a chapter in that situation is getting connected via like hilltops, because not only will you be meeting like one chapter, but multiple chapters at the same time. And again, it depends. And then last year, a lot of people were exploring virtual hilltops, which was really cool. And I think, again, open up that opportunity for, individuals to join from wherever without, necessarily being there in person. But, but yeah, I think if it's from the virtual aspect, I think there's a lot of room to, if time zones and things like that work out, to be able to attend those hotel spaces to where again, like you're meeting different people and can make connections and connect on social media, things like that. And regarding like in-person events and things like that, I would be curious for a chapter because I know one that's coming to mind that's in their own state is Bethel. Um, was like, given that we're not having a summit this year, and that we are supporting like regional hilltops, would they be like, okay, we want to go to the hilltop in Chicago, or whichever hilltop they want to attend, and then like make an effort to like, okay, this is where we want to go, and that can be an area of like in-person connection. But yeah, those were some of the thoughts that were coming to me. But yeah, I know it can definitely probably feel daunting, for a chapter in that situation, because it's just like you and your chapter. And so reaching out to other people who seem to already have like connections in the region be difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think going off of what you said earlier, Sarah, that like connecting over like our partner could be a really good way to like find that like connection point that isn't necessarily like, oh, we're in the same state, you know. That also ties like more closely into the work of GlobeMed in the first place, and I think it could open up the door for like some really purpose. It could like lead to some like more specific kind of ideas for collaboration. If we're like, okay, like we're interested in doing something with this chapter because like our partners have similar missions, well then like let's do something that's maybe um like around that mission, like raising awareness or something that's like themed around that, or whatever. um and I think like also like when reaching out to collaborate, like this is like very stupid advice. Whenever people tell me this advice, I'm always like, I always want to slap them, but like my genuine advice would just be to like just to do it. Because GlobeMed is so like it's just a network filled with so many supportive people that that yes, I know, India, that whenever like that a lot of times I think you're gonna get back like a positive response. And we all have like the same mission. We're all like very mission driven people. And it's also good to reach out with like a specific idea. Like specifically say like doing a joint GHU, maybe like sometime in this time frame, or like doing a joint fundraiser because rather than like collaboration question mark. But also like if you're just a lone chapter roughing it out there in your state alone, and you're looking just for like connections generally, then like a more general introduction, like that's fine. But I guess I would say that maybe trying to like get people to work with you and work together, being specific and direct never fails. And then if they say no, that they know what they've said no to, and you can just move on.
Okay. So the next question, based on the scenario, is what are some potential new ideas to explore this year regarding connection across the GlobeMed network? So think of this as like a power hour that we're in, and like we can generate as many ideas as we want, and just kind of like brainstorm different ways to connect with other people in the network. Um, Nothing is a right or wrong answer. These are all just ideas. And who knows, they might like come to fruition. You can bring them back to your e-board in your chapter.
Yeah, we haven't like considered the idea of doing, well, actually, I don't know if we have. I don't know if we've considered the idea of doing any public GHUs, but I think that's a really cool idea and that's something that I would like to do. I'd like to have more of our programming like open to the community in a way. Even though I like having like the specific GlobeMed group that's like a it's like a safe, closed regular community that you can discuss like, difficult topics with in the case of GHUs and so on, and it's like a familiar group. I also like the idea of having some of our programs more open to the university, and turning that into also like a bit of like a way to raise money, I think, uh, is a really good idea. And it could be cool to have that be like a joint event with, some of the other DC chapters or what have you.
I thought that the joint fundraisers was actually a good idea because I know one of the main issues that my chapter faces is that we don't always get enough of like widespread attention to, I don't know, make enough sales or reach enough people. Whereas with two schools or more, it just might be more efficient. Like, for example, I know my chapter is currently trying to design some tote bags that we could sell, and there's only like a limited number of places that we can go and do this, but if we maybe got another chapter on board, we could have them sell tote bags as well and then just combine the money and then divide it evenly at the end.
Yeah, that is so cool. That's actually like a perfect opportunity to get in touch with another chapter and like, yeah, that's like the perfect scenario. I might just like totally erase everything on this slide and put that. Um, because yeah, that would be really cool if like, for example, you get in contact with like UCLA or UC Berkeley or um, ooh, what's even north of that? I don't know, another chapter on the West Coast and try to see if they have local shops or something that could make these tote bags or contribute like a sponsorship or something. I don't know. But that's really cool. And if and when that takes off, definitely let headquarters know. You could always email us for the sale part, and we can try to widespread that and like blast that there's a sale going on. It's going to benefit a partner, and this chapter is the one that's doing it. So like, help a chapter out, you know. Um, but yeah, that's so good to hear that. Like, okay, that's in the beginning stage then.
Yeah, we just started that recently.
Cool. Okay, well, let us know how that goes and if we can help. Um, and yeah, again, like just like perfect opportunity to like start outreach and building relationships with other chapters. But yeah, I think we had like a really good discussion in this cozy little group that we had. Um, if there's any questions to pose to anyone here, so student to student, student to headquarter, headquarters to student, I might still have more questions in my head, but I think this is the perfect time to um, generate questions together on like either back to the scenario about this specific student who wants to get in touch with neighboring chapters, like what are some of the questions we might have for them.
I can, yeah. Um, I had a couple thoughts that came to me for the last question about the different ways to connection across the network, and then a question to pose to everyone. Um, Two things that came up to me. One was in relation to the partner, the like meeting up with chapters, like connecting with chapters that have partners in the same region. As I know that partners too want that connection. They're like, hey, what are other partnerships doing? Like, we can definitely learn from each other and get to meet one another. I don't know what the limit is with WhatsApp because I know our partners yeah, like enjoy using WhatsApp like some of them do if they're able to get like some good internet connection. But yeah, I wonder what that looked like to be like, a little group of chapters in this region. Or maybe it's not even like all of them in this particular region, but like, oh, let's connect more with this chapter this year, and their partner, and have like just like, I don't know, paired up with different yeah, with different partnerships to like learn more about them and be just like, hey, here's me. I thought that could be cool. And then the other thing that came to my mind was actually for all of our chapters. It's like we used to do this thing when I was an RA, when I in my first dorm. We had this little stuffed animal, and someone would be like, I don't know, the RA of the month, and they would get it, and they would put something unique on the stuffed animal, and then for the next month when it goes to someone else, they would be like, oh, this is what I put on there and why, and then pass it along. And so I was like, wow, wouldn't it be cool if we did something like that with like our Globe Med chapters? We had like, I don't know, a Globe Med something. And then we just like pass it around to the different chapters. And each chapter put something on it. So anyway, that was just thought. I was like, oh, it's like the traveling pants thing. If anyone watched that movie. And then the question I had was, I'm curious for those in the room how this would change if this was like a general body member. So not someone from eBoard, just like don't remember this like, wow, I really love my community here or my chapter, but I also want to like meet with other people from other chapters. And it's just about connecting and just like getting to know them as opposed to like trying to do a GHU or trying to do a hilltop or anything like that or a campaign.
Yeah, I can imagine for a general body member who's maybe like been in a chapter for a longer time might also feel like the safety of just reaching out through Instagram or going through their e-board. But I know we're going to have conversations later in the week in different collaboration corners about like the structures of e-board and like the limitations it could set if it's too hierarchical, and like if a general member just wants to reach out to someone from another chapter without going through their e-board. I imagine it would be easier for someone who's been there longer as opposed to someone who just joined within the term, like within the fall term or something, and like they're pretty fairly new. um, yeah, I think some of the ideas you guys had were like really helpful of like using the medium of social media, and like that's this generation's space. That's just like there's certain like cultural norms that happen on social media spaces, and so like just abiding by those might feel a little more comfortable than like doing a formal email, which I'm used to, or um, waiting for the one headquarter event or something where like they can reach out or get in touch. So I like that we're thinking that way and that we're like considering all members and not just e-board. So thank you, India. Are there any final thoughts or questions or reflections or anything that anyone wants to share before wrapping up? And I really think we got some good ideas and solutions. I'm glad we were able to look at a scenario and see it through different perspectives of different people in the network. So, huge thank you to you guys. But yeah, so leaving the space today, let us know if you're interested in leading future collaboration corners. definitely let us know. You can email info@globemed.org or reach out to your chapter coach. But other than that, I'm going to put Spotify back on. And I just want you guys to know I really appreciate you and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. So thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.